Everybody, it's white to play in this position. Black just play rook a6. White has an extra exchange. I want you to find the best move for white in this position. How would you play? Give yourself some minutes, folks. Today we are discussing why you need a chess coach in your life to be able to improve your game. I'm not selling myself cheaply, folks. I really believe in the value of human touch and talking to a stronger player, human player, that could help you improve your game. As of 2024, as of today, engines don't tell you the reasons why certain moves are good or bad. Engines can mislead you to wrong directions in chess. Namely, you can make the right move for completely wrong reasons in chess, and that's exactly what I will show you in today's video, folks. You know what I mean? Chess is a very complex game. Sometimes you can make the right move for a wrong reason, and engines do not tell you that information. When you look at the engine after the game, it will only tell you whether a move was right or wrong. It has zero information about the reasons or how difficult for a human, right, to find those moves as well. The engine gives you zero information about these key aspects, but those aspects are crucial for you to improve your chess game, right? The why question. Why is this move good? Have I gone through the right thought process in finding this move? You need a human player as of now to lay down your thoughts into, and your coach can listen to you and can give you epistemic feedback, meaning that the whys behind the moves, right? Deeper feedback you can receive from a human coach, folks. Let's go back to this position. Rook a6. Do you remember the most important question in chess? Yes, it's what would they do if I don't make a move right now? So can you tell me, please, folks, which threat are you facing as a result of rook a6? Yes, the threat you're facing is this: knight e2 check, king h2 or king h1, voila, rook h6, and it's mate on the board. Can you visualize it, folks? You're now facing Anastasia's checkmate in 2, basically, after rook a6. That's why you should take the opponent's moves seriously in chess. Otherwise, you can lose any chess position. So, whenever you see a move like this, the right thought process a coach will tell you is that, okay, have you figured out the threat you're facing after rook a6? Because if you didn't, then you went wrong. Now, the threat is this: knight e2 followed by rook h6 mate. Thus, white needs to be careful. And let's go through the process together, folks. Crucial part is to see the threat, but I still want to make a multi-purpose move that solves my problems but also improves my position. And you're a great player, folks, if you also came up with the move rook fe1, which stops the threat but also activates my worst place piece. Now I start attacking your king. Rook e8 becomes a huge threat. Great multi-purpose move. In fact, that's also the engine recommendation, rook e1. But here lies the devil, folks. I gave this position to so many of my students, and they told me that they will play rook e1. Well, not because they saw the threat, but they just want to activate their rook on an open file. Can you see the beauty of this, folks? Can you see the beauty? That's exactly why you need a chess coach here. And that's exactly how you can go wrong in finding the right moves for completely wrong reasons. I would say if you just go rook e1 without seeing the threat, then you committed a big error that you need to fix in your chess life, right? And again, rook e1 is a beautiful move and white wins. If you take on b7, then you lose, just to put it on the board, folks, right? This was the threat you were facing, just in case you didn't see it. Look at the knight on e2, cutting the king. That's why it's good to know such checkmate patterns, right? Anastasia's mate on the board, to be able to quickly, right? Quickly spot those threats in actual games. So this is the first lesson, folks. The right thought process. The opponent makes a move, you see the threat, and you don't shy away, you don't have phantom fears. You still want to make that move that is the most multifunctional. You can also come up with moves like f3, for example, right? It also stops the threat because my king now gets this f2 square. Or there are other moves probably in this position that can say, right? Maybe even g3, right? Maybe even king h2. You can come up with other solutions as long as you saw, right, the real threat you're facing. That's the key. But I still want to make the most multi-purpose move, which also improves my position. And that's exactly how you spot these moves, and that's exactly how you become a stronger chess player. One more position, this time a positional puzzle, folks. Black went d4. The question is, should white go c4 or should white take on d4? I give you two choices, okay? I give you two choices. What will be your answer? Again, please stop the video here and think for yourself first. Folks, let's go through this together. The best move for white is c4. Why? Because this pawn is a piece of wood that is getting in the way of 4 black pieces. This pawn on d4 is blocking 4 black pieces. Thus, c4 is a great positional move that shuts down the black army. If you take on d4, you're only activating the black pieces. Look at those pieces. They get active as a result of c takes d4. This is the reason why c4 is the best move in this position. Okay, so that's a human explanation for you that makes perfect sense from a positional perspective, a piece activity. Okay, now imagine a student is going c4 for the sole purpose of creating a fork threat of c5. If this is the sole explanation of this move, then they went terribly wrong in my book, right? So this means they need to engage in deeper understanding of chess. They need to talk to a stronger player to understand the real reasons why c4 is a great move. Now let's imagine after the game, the student checks the game with the engine, and the engine tells them that c4 is the best move. And the student has no coach. He or she is a weak player, and her or his interpretation is this: oh, c4 must be a good move because I threaten a pawn fork with c5. That's a completely wrong lesson you took from this example. And that's exactly how you can go wrong when you analyze your game solely with the engine after the game, right? Because it needs human interpretation. How does a human interpret this move? Well, I can explain to you as a coach, right? All the reasons why c4 is good. This makes deeper sense. This makes better sense, right? We engage in deeper analysis here in the human explanations. But imagine that a student only understands that, okay, well, I create a pawn fork threat, that's why this must be a good move. Then they went terribly wrong. You see my point, folks? I will show you more examples where engine evaluation needs to be carefully interpreted by a human player. Folks, this position is very interesting. It's white to play. How would you play this position with the white pieces? Take your time. Give yourself maybe 5 minutes or so. I want you to form a plan in this position with white, okay? How would you treat this position? What are you seeing? That's the most important part to me. Folks, first things first. There's only a single open file in the position, and black has more space. They have, let's say, better space on the king side, more space. And if you give time to black, maybe they will go g5, f4, and activate their pieces, okay, on the king side. So given this orientation phase, white needs to generate something on the queen side. It's also like our pawns are pointing to the queen side, while black is sort of playing on the king side, right? So it makes perfect sense for white to create something, some counterplay on the queen side in this position to have defensive chances. Now, what are those ideas for white? I want you to tell me a couple of ideas. How would you, let's say, keep challenging the A file to create play? To my human eye, the best moves seems to be queen b2 because idea is very simple. I want to take and play rook a1, challenge the open file, and then activate my queen on the A file and start hitting your targets like this, right? That's a very human plan that makes perfect sense. I can show you some moves, for example, g5 takes, rook a1, right? Very simple chess. If they insist to keep the file, then I do this, rook a2 followed by queen a1, and I want white to take over the open file in this position, correct? So now we reach this position. That's a very human solution. And basically, even if I allow f4 without those rooks, right, you have less counterplay basically on the king side. And I will still, let's say, try to go to queen a5, create something, right, on that side of the board. I won't just let you to attack my king on the king side. So this is a very human solution, queen b2. That makes perfect sense. Maybe even queen f1, by the way, here, with the same idea, right? I want to take, and then I want to go rook a1 to challenge the open file. This also makes perfect sense to me. Now, my student in the actual game, he played the move rook takes a8 in this position, and he gave away the open file. And the engine told them that this is equally strong to queen b2 or queen f1. The engine doesn't differentiate between rook takes a8 and queen b2 or queen f1 options. And that's also, to me, is a very instructive point, folks, right? Because to my human eye, this looks ridiculous to take on a8 and to give away the file voluntarily to black pieces. This makes no sense to my mind that white gave away the file for no reason. Now it's pure suffering, as you can understand. Well, the engine says white can't defend this, but to my human eye, black will play all these moves, queen a7, they are still keeping those moves in the, by the way, in the cards, right? All these ideas, but you gave black all the play on the a file for no reason. Look at your pieces, right? Look at your pieces, but the engine will tell you, if you look at the engine, hey, white will just create some play, just some counterplay if the queen goes to the queen side and if they are diverted to the queen side, right? Engine expects humans to play perfect moves at all times. Engine doesn't differentiate, right? How many lines are there? How many possibilities are there for white to gain equality in this line compared to the other line, for example, right? Engine expects humans to find the only defense in all these jungles of complications, basically. And that's exactly why you need a chess coach. And that's exactly why engine recommendations and lines can mislead you when you analyze your games, folks. For example, a few moves in this line, down this line, the engine expects us now to find the activity move rook a1 to sacrifice the pawn, right? And then going queen h3. And the engine says this is an equal position for white, right? So white at the right moment had to go for activity, sacrifice the pawn to gain dynamic equality. But what are the chances for a human to give away the file voluntarily like this, rook takes a8, and then play all the passive moves, and at the right moment, right? At the right moment, just when rook a3 is on the board, avoid the passive rook b1 and suddenly shift gears and play for the pawn sacrifice. And even after pawn sacrifice, I don't see exactly how can we regain the pawn, what is our compensation, and yet the engine tells you this is an equal position. You see the point? You're suffering in this case as a human player to give away the file. You're making your task much more difficult later on to find that drawing line. I'll finish with this example, folks. It's a beautiful game between Spassky and Korchnoi. Korchnoi with the black pieces. Well, I will give you two choices. Would you play queen takes h2 here, or would you go rook d8 in this position? Black is down a pawn right now, momentarily, right? So you can regain the pawn with queen takes h2, or you can go rook d8 in this position. What would be your human solution in the actual game? Imagine that you're playing this game, practical game on the board, the clock is ticking. What would be your move in this case, okay? Folks, the human move which was found by Korchnoi is rook d8, obviously rook d8, right? Because the king is unsafe. You will put so much pressure on that king by keeping your pieces on the board and avoid the queen trade. But if you look at the engine will tell you that they are equally strong. Engine will tell you it's 0, 0, 0, 0 both ways. Incredible. The engine tells you that queen trade is also fine for black. Now black only regained their pawn, but then they ended up in this endgame where the white king is very safe and it's very active on f3, and you're allowing white to make moves like f5, and they're rolling their pawns on the king side. And yes, the engine will tell you that if black plays like this, black will save a draw. But look at this. You allow e6, take f6. Suddenly that pawn is running away, guys. And look at this. I mean, look how much suffering you induced on yourself by trading the queens. Engine expects you to find now the only defense with black, which is rook d2, the only way to survive. And then you have to go back, and it doesn't even end here because you allow rook g1. Voila, this is coming. And now you're supposed to find the only defense, c2. Rook g1 is on the board. You make a queen, they take, and then they will make a queen. Oh my god. And here the engine expects you, right, to find a perpetual on the board. A perpetual check ensues, and black is the one who is fighting for a draw and who is saving a draw after those disgusting engine lines. So what's the story? Don't trust the engine blindly. Use your human judgment. Imagine that you play this game and after the game was like, oh my god, I should have taken that pawn on h2. No, completely irrelevant, because it's inhuman to take on h2, given the king's position on f3. I will show you how the game ended. Great victor played rook d8 against Boris Spassky, and Spassky, a great world champion, he couldn't defend this position because it's very, very difficult to defend in actual game. Queen g3, should we trade the queens or should we not? No queen trade, of course. Victor went queen e7, g5, rook d2 is on the board. Look at our rook and look at this king. Well, king g4, it tries to escape, but then comes queen b7, right? Suddenly you generate all these threats of rook g2. The game played itself. A human has almost a zero chance to defend properly in a position like this when their king is so exposed. And then after this comes a beautiful move, rook f2, generating a huge threat and improving the rook's position. And after king g4 comes Victor's final move. It's black to play and force a resignation. You can stop the video and find the move perhaps, guys. It's a beautiful positional move. Yes. Victor Korchnoi went queen e4 and generated all these threats which white is helpless against. And Spassky resigned because how are you supposed to defend f4? Well, if you do queen g3, you tell me the next move. Of course, rook g2, the human solution. The queen is lost and black wins the game. Look how simple the game ended the moment great Victor played the human move, rook d8. Oh, by the way, what's that disgusting engine defense after rook d8? The machine is telling you that white must have played rook f1, the only way to defend, and after rook d2, they must play rook f2. You see, disgusting engine lines. Engine expects white to find all these moves. It doesn't even end here, folks. You allow queen d8 and voila, you cannot take my rook because then my pawn is queening, and then white needs to find a couple of only moves. King g3, very accurate. You allow queen d4 in this position, and then here they should play queen f3, right? They should consolidate their position slowly, and then they can push h4 because apparently your king is not in terrible danger anymore, and then they expect you to find all these moves to secure a draw, basically. Even here, right? There are all these moves that are coming. It looks inhuman, basically, to defend a position like this. And of course, engines defend perfectly. So please, guys, use your human judgment. Don't trust the engine blindly. Ask yourself, what are the likelihood in a practical game that my opponent can hold a position like this? And as a homework, I will give you this position, folks. It's white to play. You have an extra exchange, but you're facing some threats in this position. So what would you play as a human player to convert your advantage? I'm just very curious about this, okay? Just tell me what would be your human solution in a practical game. Imagine the clock is ticking. You need to find a good move here. What would be your solution for white in this case? Because the engine will probably disagree with your decision here. If you like this video, folks, please give me a like and subscribe. I'm doing these videos to help you improve your game. So the bottom line is this. It's always great to discuss chess with a stronger player, with a coach, where you lay down your thoughts, and analyzing your games only with the engine is not a good policy, especially if you're a beginner, especially if you're not a strong player. That can misguide you, folks. So don't trust the engine blindly. Use your human judgment. Ask a stronger player. You can ask me on YouTube. Give me feedback of how you find this video, and I will give you more of similar content to help you improve your game. Rage Against the Machine is here as of 2024. They still haven't managed to capture fully human cognition when it comes to chess, and hopefully they won't take our jobs from our hands. Bye-bye.